Now to another big story we're following, this one coming from the Supreme Court of Canada, and a decision related to the opioid crisis. The court has decided that BC can, in fact, file a class action lawsuit against opioid providers for healthcare-related costs on behalf of other governments. CBC's Olivia Stefanovic is at the Supreme Court in Ottawa with more.
The question before the Supreme Court of Canada was, can BC proceed with a national class action on behalf of all the provinces, territories, health agencies, and the federal government against pharmaceutical companies for opioid-related healthcare costs? And today, in this 6-1 decision, the top court says, yes, this national class action can go ahead. Now, BC launched this case because it alleged that 49 pharmaceutical companies that market, distribute, and manufacture opioids misled the public about how addictive and prone to abuse these drugs are compared to other pain medication. And it had the support of other provinces and territories, health agencies, and Ottawa for this. In fact, all the other governments introduced similar legislation to BC to seek damages from these companies. But for efficiency's sake, they all went with BC's case, and BC decided to represent them all and go against these companies. Now, 4 of these pharmaceutical companies out of the 49, they decided to challenge this case at BC's Court of Appeal and all the way to the top court today. And they've lost at every single step of the way. Their argument was that BC was overstepping its jurisdiction by not just representing itself in this class action, but other governments, because there hasn't been quite a case like this. Now, one justice at the Supreme Court of Canada, Suzanne Cote, she agrees with this. She says that BC overstepped its authority and this national class action should not go ahead. But the majority of justices at the Supreme Court of Canada, 6 of them who wrote this decision, they say that this can go ahead, which clears the door, clears the way, in a sense, for there to be multiple Crown class actions to be launched in the future.
Olivia, remind us, with this huge decision coming from the Supreme Court, the scale of the crisis in this country, whether it's in British Columbia or really right across, that's brought us to today's decision.
Well, BC calls this an opioid epidemic that is happening across the country. And this is something that the top court acknowledges in its ruling today. It calls this a crisis, and a crisis that requires government cooperation and efficiency to find solutions. And that is really at the heart of why the Supreme Court of Canada decided to clear the way for this national class action against pharmaceutical companies to go ahead, because of the fact that this is an easier way for all governments to get together and seek costs as one, instead of having there to be multiple class actions happening across the country about the same arguments. So because this is such a crisis, it's national in scale, that's why the Supreme Court of Canada says this should go ahead. And this can likely lead to other situations where there are issues that are national in scale, where you might be able to see another province move ahead with a class action, legal action against a company or something else on behalf of multiple governments in the future, all because of this decision.
Olivia Stefanovic in Ottawa.